I believe food to be sacred. The sizzling of butter on a pan, the aromas of crushed garlic and sweating onions, the feeling of raw dough between your fingers, the endless combinations of spicy and sweet on your tongue, the nourishment that comes from a meal shared with friends. Food is beautiful. Food is delicious. Food brings people together and has the power to heal. But food can easily become a burden. It costs money and it takes time to make, time we don't always feel we have. When we became parents, we vowed to keep the love and praise of food alive in our household. We want our daughter to grow up deeply connected to the seasonality of food, where it comes from, and where our food waste goes when we're done with it. But both Carson and I work, so it's hard.
We've never been a meal prepping family, but our weekday evenings are becoming increasingly challenging just with having a little baby and her being at daycare and us each working, and we're trying to make nutritious meals for all three of us. She's 11 months now, so she's eating basically what we're eating, but it's tough when we're all in these different places and then trying to come together, and then she has a bedtime, and we have been trying to rethink how we approach food without having to sacrifice the quality of the meals and without our mealtime just becoming a massive burden. We have a little bit of a plan. This is Carson's idea, which is to meal prep. But we just
kind of more ingredient prep.
So we just did a big trip to the farmer's market. We also went on a walk, went to the library. We had a lovely day outside, but now we're just gonna try to prep some ingredients.
I have come up with the basic building blocks that we use for most meals. I figure that I can chop them ahead of time. I can make a couple of mixtures, make a couple of refrigerator pickles, and hopefully that'll just make cooking a lot faster. Also gonna try to plan ahead, what we're gonna make what night, and maybe do some stuff the night before. And so already having most of the meal prep done will make it easier to do something late at night the night before, rather than kind of the daunting task of starting a meal.
Oh, excuse me.
It's tough because we love food and we love cooking so much, and it's always been a big part of our lives. And I think before having a baby, we really didn't want to have to sacrifice this part of our lives. But the reality is that having a 1-year-old just completely changes what your life looks like and where your time goes. And I think once we're in a slightly different stage, like maybe when her bedtime is a little bit later and she's just a little bit more aware and actually able to stand and participate a little bit with us, then we might be able to bring a little bit more of our time back into cooking together as a family. But we have a 1-year-old and it's a season. We really want to get her involved as early as possible, but this is our first time doing this. We're first-time parents.
We're first-time parents, first-time preppers.
First-time parents, first-time preppers. We've got a lot of chopping and a lot of baby entertaining to do.
Oh man, this is some tear-inducing onion.
Our goal was to get all the veggie chopping and peeling accomplished in one afternoon so that once it comes time to cook dinner each night, we can throw things right into the pan. As we said, this is our first time doing this, so it's not a perfected system by any means. We just wanted to document the process, show you our meals for each night of the week, and share any insights we glean along the way.
extra of, he's been putting right into here for tonight's dinner. We've got some sweet potatoes going in there for Murphy's dinner. Yeah. So you are chopping ginger and garlic. And
Yes.
what's your plan?
We're putting ginger and garlic in a food processor with a little bit of olive oil to make ginger garlic paste. This is an idea I got from a cookbook. There's no such thing as an original idea in cooking.
How often are you using garlic and ginger in our dinners?
Like almost every time. That's why we're doing it together. And I just put a clove of garlic in with a piece of ginger I got in. But we'll figure out the ratio as we go.
We love garlic and ginger.
Yes, we do. They're delicious. They're good for your health.
How's it taste?
Ooh, that's got both. That's the key thing. I've done this once before. One of them really overpowered the other. I want to be hit in the face by both of them when I taste it, and that is what we're getting. Yum. Yeah.
I would say how nice it is to have all your vegetables chopped and how much more fun cooking is when all the chopping is already done. My idea of what meal prepping was would have thought that I needed to know how much of each vegetable I needed to chop and which vegetables. What we ended up doing was just going to the farmer's market, buying the vegetables we usually cook with. I chopped them all up, put them in jars, and then I figured out what I was gonna make for the week after that. That was like very liberating. It felt a lot easier on the mental load side of things. The goal was to prep as much for the next day as possible in the evenings after dinner was over and after Murphy had gone to sleep. And then I had time in the kitchen to do any work that could be done ahead of time for whatever meal I had planned to make the following night. And that really worked well. Like I'm trying to more and more use time to my advantage of like let things marinate in the fridge overnight. You know, we do an overnight rise bread that you don't have to knead because you just leave the yeast to do it by itself. Stuff like that, of just how can you let doing a small amount of work a long ways in advance do a lot of the heavy lifting for you just by letting time pass. There was one meal in the week that I had wanted to have as a family that I didn't finish in time, and that's okay. You know, it's not going to be perfect, but most of them we did get to eat as a family, and that was kind of the goal. I've certainly learned like some more like just like basic logistics that I'm sure I'll learn more of like which vegetables keep well after you chop them and put them in a mason jar. Like the Brussels stunk, and like the lid kind of like popped off when I took it, so I don't think I'm gonna do the Brussels sprouts again on that. They tasted fine though. They like were totally worked in the slaw that I used them in 2 different slaws, and they worked great. They like didn't taste stinky, but it was just a little like maybe this isn't the best one. And the onions get really oniony, but it wasn't really in a bad way. I mean, I'm sure if you leave them long enough it gets bad, but you know, I'm using onions in most things, so the turnover was high on the onions. We ended up having a lot of meat this week, and it was really delicious and great, but also like, you know, we try to buy high quality meat and buy it in smaller amounts and more unusual cuts in order to make that affordable. And so I think we actually had more meat than we needed to have this week. Like we didn't end up using almost any alternative protein sources at all, like tofu and beans and lentils and all that good stuff. We did have split pea soup, but there was a ham hock in there. I guess the last thing I would say is just the challenge is doing it every week. The weekend just ended and we didn't go to the farmer's market and get more food and chop it up like we did last weekend. But we also aren't totally through everything that we had. And so maybe it's more of a 2-week cycle, maybe it's more of a 1.5-week cycle. We have 2 different farmer's markets we could go to. I think, again, maybe that's kind of a blessing. If we tried to be too rigid about that happening on Sundays, then it's like anytime anything else happens on a Sunday and that doesn't get done, then not having it all go out the window is for the best.
Okay, I have one final question for you. Did you enjoy cooking this week?
I definitely enjoyed cooking more than I have in quite a number of months, because it's been so time pressured and it's felt like I just need to do it as fast as I possibly can. That's like not that fun. That's like what, you know, professional chefs do, and that's why I'm not a professional chef. I think what ends up happening is that I get in the kitchen, I'm like, I need to crank this out as fast as I can. So I turn the pan on the heat, I chop an onion as fast as I can, I put it in, I chop the next thing, I put it in. And so I'm not really paying as much attention to what's on the stove, which usually I don't burn things, but also like I'm not necessarily cooking them as well as I could be, and I'm not always cooking them over the heat that they should be, you know, that would work best for whatever I'm trying to accomplish. That hectic energy of like trying to chop while you already have to have stuff on the stove is just like, yeah, it's hectic. It's a lot. Just being able to like be at the stove and be like fully engaged with the food I'm cooking, which is like always how you want to be cooking. This really enabled that a lot more. And I did really like that about it.
And the summer veggies are back.
And yeah, I mean, starting this in February would be a lot harder.
And is it rewarding to give your 1-year-old delicious food?
Yes. I mean, that is really the core. I mean, yes, having more fun cooking is a goal, but the core goal is really to be able to sit down as a family and have dinner together. And I have to be able to turn around from getting home from work to putting that on the table in well under an hour. Being able to do that every night with food that I really feel proud of and excited to share with her. She can tell, and she's a really adventurous eater, and so it's like whatever we give her to try, she's gonna try. And so it's really fun that we can all sit down and have a meal together.